Welcome back to Wisdom Rising. I am your host, Christine Renee, and today I have a special guest on. We have Wilder Akasha, who is, gosh, there's so many things in your bio that I love, but let's just start out with she has certifications in somatic coaching and embodied leadership. She's done work with resiliency and trauma-informed mindfulness and understanding how your body fully expresses when it's gone through a lot of shit. And I am just so honored that you're coming on to our show. You're also the founder of the Hawaii School of Tantra and also a business called Cultivating Aliveness. And you're going to be in Austin, Texas for the Intro to Sacred Tantra training that you and my partner, Jim McDonald, will be facilitating, and I'll be assisting at this upcoming January. And I'm super excited to have you on. I can't wait to hear your story about how your background has really informed the path that you're on today. So, what else would you like to use for your intro?
Oh my goodness. I would say that I see life as an adventure. I
Mhm.
really got that from my dad and my grandfather, and I'm really grateful for that. I would say that I'm a lifelong learner because of that and lead with curiosity into most things that I do. And I'm a mom of three adult kids, and so that's been a part of my journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, I know that you have spent a lot of time in your trainings understanding the the somatic understanding of how the body holds trauma. And I'm wondering if what kind of set you on to that particular path. I know that we have a lot of listeners out there who have lots of different kinds of trauma. So know that if you're listening, if the emotion is there, how can we breathe through it and notice what you notice as we have the conversation? So, just a little trigger warning from the beginning. But I think this is a really important conversation to have as well.
hmm And just piggybacking on the last thing that you said, Rumi has a poem called "The Welcome Guest," and the premise is that our feelings are can be welcomed in our bodies as welcome guests, rather than things that we need to constrict or constrain or basically encapsulate and push aside for later because it's so uncomfortable to feel them, like the big emotions of grief and sadness and just the suffering that we feel inside of our bodies and also in our minds when we circulate over and over and spiral on a story, trying to make sense of it, trying to gnaw at it until it makes sense. All of those things burn energy when really our feelings are just signals that come in and want to be acknowledged, just like we do as human beings want to be acknowledged. I'll go back to two things that I really took away. I'm first and foremost, also my background is in education. I was a school administrator of a kindergarten through eighth grade school for 11 years. I have a master's in educational leadership, learned about child development in undergrad. And so I've been in this space of how do people learn? And then what's the developmental journey that we go on slightly differently with the female brain and the male brain. There's resources for that. And in coming out of it, coming to a sense of like, who am I? What's my purpose? How do I move through the world? But we often get so stuck because of the stories and narratives and because of the pain that we hold in our bodies. First thing is that when we're born as babies, we're born for connection. Picture a little baby on the floor crawling and putting, moving towards a human being, or babies that look up with their eyes, trying to make eye contact. They're patterning their behavior. They're looking for a template for how to survive in the world.
Mhm.
And the second thing is curiosity. So every one of us is born wired for curiosity. It's not a learned skill because curiosity is the part of our DNA that helps us survive. I think about like caveman times, cavewoman times, but also that toddler again, putting things in their mouth. Like, is this safe? Is this good? Does it feel good to me? All of those little experiments help them form who they are and how they're going to make their way through the world.
Oh, I love that connection and the curiosity, and how
hmm
that has really informed not just everyone, but like you and your own personal experience and how you see the world. I love that.
And that helped me realize like you don't have to learn those things. You just have to tap back in and remember how innate that was for you as a newborn coming into this life.
Yeah. Yes.
And yeah,
So
and
once
yet.
you have that curiosity, and the connection, like I think that's so true how even as adults, we may have a variety of backgrounds, but we're constantly looking. I think it's that vagal nervous system that's really looking for, is this safe? Is this
Mhm,
situation supporting me? Do I need to make myself smaller and constricted in my energy? Or can I be my expanded full version of who I am? Like,
mhm.
what is the room speaking to me? And,
Right.
right? Hmm.
Hmm. Yep. I saw a little snippet of something online of Hannah Weddington, who's the Ted Lasso actress, the really tall blonde one. And she said that she used to be asked to not wear high heels on set. And not just for Ted Lasso, but for anything else. And she said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to diminish my shine for anyone else, that that's a birthright that we all have." And I think it's easy to forget that and orient ourselves to be the shapeshifters that we are to then move into that survival. Christine, I'm big on resources.
Yes.
So I'll drop in, there's a phenomenal book called The Five Personality Patterns by a man in the Bay Area named Steve Kessler. And I highly recommend it. If you want to learn how fight, flight, freeze, and appease can be things that happen to us over time as pattern ways of behaving. But when those patterns really like take root inside of our bodies, into our soma, they become more ingrained. And so they show up as like a leaving pattern or a merging pattern or a enduring pattern or an aggressive pattern. And so those are the examples of how we can be grabbed by life and then come into reactivity instead of like a more responsive, measured, thoughtful, expansive self that is taking more ownership
Yeah.
of how we move through the world and creating less harm
Mhm.
because you're not blaming others. And then that authority of that we all like do all of this coaching and self-development work because we want to feel authority and agency in our own lives, but it's already there.
Yeah. And I think there's this like, so many people are trying. Like I put that in quotations, like we're trying to be better, we're trying to do this work. And at some point, there's this transition into this radical responsibility of owning our past and our reactions and recognizing where did that come from and taking the moment. Like I feel like so often when we come in connection with someone else and it feels abrasive and you armor
Mhm,
up because you're like, this doesn't feel right. And so there's the defensiveness there. And then you're having, what part of you is being triggered? Is it an inner child? Is it a past trauma response? Is it whatever it is? And going, can I take a moment and recognize that? Can I
mhm,
recognize that there's a part of me that's experiencing this in this way, but that's not all of who I am. I can take a moment to really hear from the other person and then give honor to your process and how you're feeling. And I think so often, even in myself, it's my initial reaction is suppress that. Don't feel that. It's not a big deal. Don't be too much. You're gonna make too big of a deal out of nothing, and I should just push it away, right?
mhm, mhm.
And
Power through.
power through
Yeah.
it. And that actually isn't getting anything resolved.
It just prolongs it. For example, I was married for 18 years, and at the time of my divorce, I had a lump in my lower left abdomen that was like a golf ball size. You could feel it, and the doctors couldn't figure out what it was with testing. And it wasn't until like maybe 6 months after we were no longer living in the same home that it went away. It just went away,
Yeah.
and I call it my stress ball.
Mhm.
And I think it's like all the things, like all the times that I shut up and I didn't speak my truth, all the times that I gave away my power because that was what was required of me at the time, of my truth, my agency, when I didn't stand up for what I felt was right, all of that energy that would have gone out of me into the world, into a communication, into a request that was heard and landed, where that energy could direct out and land somewhere, it got stuffed inside of me. And I think it all just got stuffed and accumulated in one place enough that it became physical, And another example is I had a rollover car accident in 2018. We were on our way from Northern California to LA for my daughter's 16th birthday. She had friends in the car, and someone had cut my car off. And the result was the accident. And for a year afterwards, I had really bad back pain and shoulder pain, and couldn't quite figure out what it was, except for it felt like the seatbelt.
Mhm.
Except for you can see me gesturing. I'm gesturing on my right shoulder and my right back, not my left side, where the seatbelt would have been as the driver. And so through somatic experiencing and therapy, and it was really only one session, we made contact with my guilt of having been the driver of the car. And I got to talk to my guilt. I spent time and thanking the guilt for bringing it to my I'm getting chills right now
Mhm.
as I'm telling this. And after the guilt was acknowledged, it didn't have to live in my body. It's like a little puppy or a young kid saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." It just wanted me to pay attention to it. And once I acknowledged it, it went away. It had done its job and it didn't need to take up that space.
Yeah, and I love that example because I
All the times that I gave away my power because that was what was required of me at the time, of my truth, my agency, when I didn't stand up for what I felt was right. All of that energy that would have gone out of me into the world, into a communication, into a request that was heard and landed, where that energy could direct out and land somewhere, it got stuffed inside of me. And I think it all just got stuffed and accumulated in one place enough that it became physical.
feel like I've had a lot of similar experiences with other different kinds of emotions in my body, and
Hmm.
really recognizing how much is just trying to get my attention so it can be seen, heard, and validated.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And so when we can
Yep.
go and move through that process on the other side, it lessens because it had that opportunity, and it knows that we can continue to give it attention when it seeks the support, love that it needs.
Right.
Feel like I've had a lot of similar experiences with other different kinds of emotions in my body, and
Hmm.
really recognizing how much is just trying to get my attention so it can be seen, heard, and validated.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And so when we can
Yep.
go and move through that process on the other side, it lessens because it had that opportunity, and it knows that we can continue to give it attention when it seeks the support, love that it needs. Yeah.
Right. And without it, it keeps working for the attention. And you just brought up like seen, heard, and validated. Our bodies, the parts of us that want that. And from human to human connection, it's also the same thing. Like sometimes when there's conflict or sticky situations, I kind of step back, drop in, and ask like, who's not feeling seen, heard, and validated, and in what ways right now, and how do we create space to address it in real time?
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's any other stories that really have on this path of doing the somatic work. Is there anything that really is alive in you that, like, this was another like big story that kind of helped me find the path that I wanted to be on to support others?
Hmm. I have a program called Matriarch that I designed for women in transition. So I'm thinking about women from other countries who are coming here and seeking asylum, but they're carrying their home and their children with them. I'm thinking of women who are victims and survivors of domestic violence, who are escaping a past life or a different life and wanting to create something new. I'm thinking of women who carry a lot of responsibility and are leaders in very visible roles and how they are taking it all on. And I think that there's the imprinting of patriarchy that gets embedded in our soma. And I think of the responsibilities at home and the sequencing and the second shift work that women do that is physical, emotional, social, psychological, all of that wrapped together. And so my desire there is to create a space where women can find and create a place of home within themselves, um, anytime, anywhere. Home represents to me your back body and your front body and what's happening in between. And from that place of home, you can then open up your arms and be of service again to others and be of service to the bigger mission that you have. And that to me is then stepping into the future. And if we're grounded and embodied and we're creating a future, really what we are matriarchs. We're creating a lineage that can pass through us into the future of our home, of our family, our community, right? Of corporate entities that we might be leading, or movement makers, change makers. We're all in a lineage of something, and how to be the lineage holder, creator of a new lineage energetically through the body in the present moment as a framework of moving through life and complexity for any woman at any time.
I love it. How did you step into that archetype of matriarch?
There's a typical, widely used like maiden, mother, matriarch. So I'm 57 years old. And I have been the maiden, although I think I had a lot of healing to do about my maiden years because a lot of my energy was given away to the social, familial, cultural expectations of me. And I do want to come back to something related to that. And then my mothering years were so busy. I call them the busy years, where I was working full time, raising 3 kids, family lived far away, and finding myself at the same time. I was doing that identity work of so many generations of women of like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is there more for me? I knew there was more for me. I wanted to be present and love my kids. And the greatest lesson that my oldest son Max gave me is that when he was 10, I was working at the computer. He came up to me, put his hands on my cheeks, and like turned my face to him, and he said, "Mama, I want your presence right now. I want you to be present." And I turned and faced, I was about to say, wait a second, let me just finish this thing. But I turned my chair and faced him, and we locked eyes, and I felt him. And I felt my child in a way that I don't think I've felt him since babyhood, like a really deep dropping in. It felt like, oh, I read books and I made dinner and I did homework and I did bath time. And so all of that. And then matriarch comes after, right? I started to be in more circles of practice where there definitely were elders holding space for the community. And while I didn't see myself as that yet, I was like, well, my kids are just now on the cusp of adulthood. What does that make me? And I felt like I had enough lived experience and embodied knowledge that I had something to share with others now, not from ego, but from service. And in that, owning the identity and embodiment of matriarch gives it more structure and substance to stand in.
Yeah, I'm curious about where from that point of view, I mean, now that's your now, right? You're in the
Mhm.
matriarchy of your life. And I'm wondering how how does that feel? Who do you serve? What helps you feel the most alive? Like, give me a snapshot of where you're at this point.
Mm. Well, there are days when I'm like, I cracked the code. I'm so like so juicy about life. And on those days, I am having great sexual connection with my partner. I am getting out of my way in terms of my mind, making up stories of what's happening. I can just drop into presence. I'm spending more time in the eye gaze because then I'm feeling myself and feeling another at the same time. And that's not just in the bedroom, that's like walking and talking through the day. I have a purpose, like maybe it's a right size purpose. Like, what am I going to do today that feels realistic, right? That also moves the dial for what I'm doing. And it feels like it's coming from within me, I'm not being pushed at my back by pressure or urgency. And yeah, and there's some delight and playful energy around it. Then on days where I feel some challenge, where I'm not getting enough sleep, maybe I didn't eat well, maybe my schedule is a little bit more off, um, or there's conflict in my life or complexity in my life, like I'm trying to do too much for my capacity. So I I call on spirits to guide me. I will call on spirits. In my work with my energy teacher, her name is Linda Sassara. She taught me to call in the electricians, which is our joking name for them. So spirits are always out there wanting to guide us and help us, right? And they can bucket themselves into themes. Like sometimes I'll work with the joyful ones, and they can't do work of joy unless they have a body or physical manifestation to like work through. So I offer myself up in service, and sometimes I ask for help. Well, often I will ask for help, but specifically from the electricians to say, please help me expand my capacity for holding all that is happening in my system today for now. Please, through my arteries and my veins, my nervous system, please expand my capacity by 10% or 25%. And pretty much instantaneously, I feel like the room is wider and there's just more spaciousness around me to like take a deep breath. And like that helps me ground and center and come back to myself so that I'm not being buffeted by like the pressurized cauldron of complexity and conflict that, can happen.
I love that. I love that example so much. And I think our audience will as well, because so many people who listen in are
Hmm.
energy practitioners, shamanic workers, like those
Hmm.
types of things. And I just find so much of when we can tap into our healing helpers, our spirit guides, all of those, helper entities
Hmm.
also kind of put the path before us of like leading us down, um, through synchronicity, through connection, through all of these things. Like we're getting the golden nuggets along the way to bring us in
Hmm.
alignment to our passion and purpose. And I just see
Hmm.
so much of that coming into your life of like
Hmm.
where you are now. I know you've recently developed the Hawaii School of Tantra and cultivating aliveness. And I know that you've got so many different threads going on.
Right.
All of like energy is just coming out of you all over the place, all of the time. And I'm like, and now you just gave us your hack.
Uh-huh. Right, right, right. Well,
Right?
you can feel it, right? When you feel like you're overloaded, like you
Mhm.
can feel like I'm about to explode,
Yes.
or I'm going to say something that I'm really going to regret in an hour or tomorrow. And I can also feel it as like it feels like adrenaline, but it feels like too much for
Mhm.
me to handle. And so that capacity thing works. And as does like running energy down into the earth,
Yeah.
the reminder that Mama Gaia is there, has been there our whole entire lives and will be there our whole entire physical lifetime. And so she's there to just hold us, in her womb and nourish us that way.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was just thinking that all of this is for me comes down to my ability to sense myself,
Mhm.
sense others, and then sense the world. And one thing I had to heal in order to sense others is my relationship with vigilance.
Mhm.
So going back to the soma, I used to feel vigilance like a big knot in my heart chakra. It was like between my heart and diaphragm. And it almost felt like one of those superhero vests, with like a spotlight on it. And it would like spotlight the world and look for vigilance. Is it here? Danger. And it was always on. And I was exhausted. I was really, really exhausted. And one day I realized that I couldn't just turn it off. I realized that it was vigilance, I realized I couldn't just turn it off. So I gave it a different job. I said, instead of looking for danger, vigilance, you're welcome to stay in my body. You're welcome to take up space right where you are, but can you look for good instead?
Mm.
Right? And so it's still the same energy of going out and looking at the world, but now I can repurpose it for looking for good.
I love that. And, I literally wrote an email this morning on vigilance and how my own vigilance is a trauma response. And
Hmm.
I was definitely in an emotionally abusive long-term relationship where I had to watch everything. I mean, every little thing could set off my husband. And so my job was to be quote unquote the perfect wife
Hmm.
who micromanage the home to perfection, or else I would be screamed at.
Hmm.
And so that vigilance within me is still like, it not only scans my house constantly, it's scanning the world. Like, are all men this way? Who's going to be on
Hmm.
attack next? And I think there,
Hmm.
like, so much from my childhood was every man is going to be a bad guy, was kind of the
Hmm.
overall training I got from the women in my life of you have to watch your back. The rapist is right around the corner. You cannot let your guard down. Like, and I know logically they were trying to protect me, but now to move through the world where my vigilant is constantly looking at all the danger signals, all of the red flags, all of the fill in the blank. And
Hmm.
I love that there was a repurposing for you into to honing that skill into identifying positivity. Is there
Hmm.
any other like, is there any other skill or tips or things that you
Hmm.
can help support that transition?
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is a bridge skill, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm a bridge builder. I used to do diversity equity trainings, but I wasn't one of those people that went to burn the house down.
Mhm.
And I wasn't there to spark anger or be disruptive. I was there to, what's the right language? What's the right tone so that I can create safety for everybody in the room? Because without safety, we're not learning.
Yeah.
And right, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
right,
That's
without
it.
safety, you can't take anything in and learn. And so, another thought I have is how can we better understand when we're in the comfort zone? So if you think of a bullseye target, there's three concentric circles. I'm speaking to the middle one, which is the comfort zone, where you might be a little tucked in, a little bit cozy, and knowing that I'm protecting myself and I'm staying here. There are times for that. Like absolutely, absolutely, there's times for that. And then there's the stretch zone. And stretch zones at different times in our life, in different containers, different relationships, it's going to have a different boundary all the time. So, how do you sense how far out it is from you? And how do you have the skills and tools of language, frameworks like a desires, fears, and boundaries conversation that help you kind of make it very visible and communicated? And then there's the panic zone.
Mhm.
When you go past your stretch and you go into panic, you're no longer learning. So, how can you start maybe taking an inventory of your panic zone traits? Like for me, my heart rate will start going, my palms might get a little sweaty. I start getting phlegmy in my throat and my voice catches or it gets scratchy a little. Um, I start telling, I start saying bad things in my head about the situation or people, right?
Yeah.
And catching yourself and knowing what I call that a body snapshot, like a Polaroid picture. How do you take a snapshot of it, put it in your, card catalog inventory, and use it as a way to stop yourself? Like, oh, I'm actually in the panic zone right now.
Yeah.
I need to come back in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that neuroreception is super important for people who are wanting to learn how to stretch, but they're also not, you don't need to dive into the deep end. It's more of
Mm-mm.
like, where's those baby steps, but what's actually a little bit even more than a baby stretch, but you're still not in the panic zone,
Right. Because
right?
we're here to build building blocks for our own lives, right? When I did corporate consulting, we said go slow to go fast. Like people are like, why are we doing this? And it's like, well, we're going slow to build the foundation of trust, to build the foundation of communication, so that when you're taking on bigger projects, when you're living life that in, more traumatic situations, then you can go fast because you have the skills at the ready and they're working together as lockstep rather than you having to piece it together in real time.
Yes. I want to go back to something you said about the bull zone, the center, the comfort zone, but it also feels like the phrase that you used, coming home to yourself, the sovereignty, the
Mm.
agency of like, from that point, we're able to really help ourselves identify all of these things. Do you want to speak
Hmm.
more to that?
Yeah, I want to introduce the concept of self-determination.
Mhm.
It comes from education. It's why the trans movement is so important. It's why we fight throughout our lives because we're born, we have a birthright to be in this body, in this spirit, in this time. And when our agency for ourselves is taken away, no matter how much our self expression and our self determination is different from our homes that we grow up in, our parents' images of how we're supposed to be in the world, or the culture that we're living in, or for those of us who are lucky, you're born into a very nurturing place that lets you solidify your identity from a young age and have that solidity serve you as one of those foundational building blocks ongoing. Without it, as humans, we're wired for curiosity and connection to ourselves as well, to keep pulling on threads and feeding ourselves and nourishing until we can find that core self that is really solid and true. It's like that our lived essence is aligned with our true essence. It comes in through like this verticality of the self where we can feel, oh yeah, that breath of like, I'm home and I can feel it
Yes.
and I know it,
Mhm.
right? And I don't have to waste energy code switching and other things. I don't have to waste energy being something that I am not.
Yes. Yeah. All right, I feel like I've got a pretty good picture of your philosophy, like how you live your life, how you
Hmm.
support others. I'm curious, what projects are you currently working on? How are you? I know that you spoke already to the course of your matriarchy course. That sounds phenomenal. I love that you're serving those communities and especially those marginalized communities. And I'm wondering what other play spaces are people finding you in these days? I know you've got the Hawaii School of Tantra. I know you have Cultivating Liveness. What's going on in your world right now?
I'm in creator mode. I think when, that you're starting a business, and I am starting a business, I just closed down a business consulting company in December so that I could focus on energetics. I could focus on healing. I know in my core that I'm a healer on this planet and that my services are valuable and necessary. It's just finding the right places to participate. So I'm experimenting in Hawaii. I do immersions that are one-on-one with clients who come here, live here with us for 4 days to 7 days, and we custom curate things like inner child work, Watsu, massage, family constellations,
Mhm.
Gestalt practices. I do a journey mapping where I draw as I'm listening to you and surface things. We've seen really deep, I call it sticky transformation, transformation that lasts until the next milestone. And then also couples retreats here on the Big Island. And we're also working to attract a growing Chinese population that's coming to the island for personal growth and development to come in and actually experience Tantra here as well in a safe, trauma-informed container. And then online, I have Sensing, which is a 30-day text-based program. It's self-paced prompts, but it's a choose your own adventure. You do the prompt, and then as you reflect, you can go deeper, you can go wider, you can choose how you want to interact. Um, and then following that is discernment and radiance. So those are the three within an arc of transformation that I'd like to provide for people. And then collaborations, Jim and I are going to be in Austin, and I'm collaborating with Richard Bach here on the island to produce a facilitator training on quantum light breath in person in Hawaii in September. And I'm open. At this point, I'm using my sensing to figure out like what brings me joy and what can I do that brings the most impact.
I love it. Yeah, I feel like there's so much in my life when I wake up, I'm like, what do I want to do today that's going to be inspiring for me, that feels like it's allowing me to be of service to the divine and take those next steps through that inspiration. And that's what
Hmm.
I'm hearing from you. It's like you're in
Hmm.
this openness of, oh, this is coming through. Oh, and this is coming through. And look at how well it serves your communities and your, your clients and your
Hmm.
clientele. I think that that sounds really beautiful. And if you're able to do it all, why not? I'm really excited to see you again here in Austin for the
Hmm.
Intro to Sacred Tantra retreat. And, I know that there's going to be future podcasts on that, but I would love just to get your snapshot definition of what Tantra means to you.
Mm. I almost want to like close my eyes and drop in
Yes.
because I don't like to have a pat answer on that. I'm writing a book right now with one of um, my teachers. The book is called Coming Alive. And it's all about Tantra, but we don't talk about it as Tantra right up front because it's really tantric principles that you can use to bring in your life. So, Tantra for me is the ability to generate and move energy through your physical system so that you may feel the support of the earth and the inspiration and connection to source, whatever you call that spiritual guidance, and have as healthy set of relationships to support you on your journey in life.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think there is so many different definitions of Tantra, and everyone, you really have to ask the question to
Hmm.
know what people mean by it. And
Right.
right. And I think that it's good use to really have that transparency. I've been in different Tantra circles where it feels very like sexuality focused, and then you go on the
Right.
very other end and it's like, no, we're just doing breath work and doing kriya chanting, and it's like, great, all of that can be Tantra. And so whenever I work with someone, I'm like, oh, what's your definition?
Kriya chanting, what's that?
Right? Exactly. Exactly. So I love it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's for me it's about how do we have relationships with each other because we can be in relationship with ourselves, which is a huge part of the work, but then ultimately we want that connection. And so it's heartbreaking to know that we have so many bad skills that break connection, even if you're in a really healthy relationship because of our past. And so I call that, our shaping stories. We carry it around like a backpack. And how do we like learn to put it down in appropriate moments,
Yeah.
address it in appropriate moments, but so that we can live in our home base of our present body between our back body and our front body and be in our verticality so that we can be seen, we can be felt, we can feel and see and receive others. And that is, I think, the whole point of life. It doesn't get much more complicated than that. The complexity is how we do it.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Any final messaging for our listeners out there?
Mm, I want to come back to go slow to go fast. Like, don't expect you're going to eat the whole hamburger in one mouthful. And you can imagine having a little dial on your like right shoulder, and it's like a radio dial, and you can titrate your experiences wherever you are. You can turn down the volume so that you can feel yourself, and feeling yourself is the most important thing.
Mm. Such wise wisdom. Thank you so much, Wilder, for coming on the Wisdom Rising podcast. I can't wait to have you on again.
Yeah.
And know that all of those resources that Wilder mentioned throughout our discussion today will be in the show notes, as well as all of the links to reach out to her. Um, Follow her on all of the social media platforms, do the things, make sure you like and share this episode, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone, for listening.